By now, most of us know that exercise is good for us. We may have even heard the phrase that exercise is medicine. But when do we need medicine? Usually, when something in our system is out of balance. Having a remedy to restore your immune system is great, and thank goodness we have good doctors and good medicine. But why did our bodies fail to keep us in balance and healthy in the first place? We can use exercise as medicine for sure, but it may be useful to look at what could be causing the imbalance. Let me illustrate an example. If I jump off a cliff and break my leg, I'll need a doctor to set the bones and put me in a cast, and I'll probably want some painkillers to cope with the discomfort. Then, after a number of weeks, my bones will heal and I'll get out of the cast and wean off the painkillers and go on my way and go right back to that same cliff and then jump off and break my leg again. And then go back to the doctor, get in a cast, get the painkillers, and begin the process over and over. Now, that seems ridiculous, right? But in a way, that's what we do with any habit that has negative consequences. When the habit has immediate and extreme consequences, such as jumping off a cliff and breaking a leg, it's really easy to see what the problem is. But what if the habit was so common that nearly everyone was doing it? And the consequences built up so slowly that it took years to experience their effect. Would you be able to connect the dots of cause and effect? Or would you assume the problems are just a natural process of living and aging? Here's the point. There are many conditions, such as foot pain, bunions, back pain, neck pain, osteoarthritis, chronic fatigue, headaches, pelvic floor disorders, and those are just a few of what are often called the diseases of modern living. The question is, are they natural or are they just normal? Could it be they're the body's natural response to our normalized way of modern living? Krishnamurti said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Let's take a simple look at what we're seeking with exercise. Adaptation. All the cells of the body adapt and change as a result of the mechanical forces they experience. This is a process called mechanotransduction. So, the cells of the body are constantly sensing and reading their environment and attempting to adapt to find balance and to thrive within that environment. So when we exercise, we're exposing our muscles and tissues to forces and pressures that signal the cells to adapt in order to meet the requirements of that activity. So over time, if you work a muscle enough, it changes. It gets longer, or shorter, or stronger, depending on what you're doing. And it turns out that all our cells need to experience these forces of movement in order to regenerate and stay healthy. But what's most often overlooked are the times when we are not exercising. All our cells are continuing to adapt to their environments, but when we're not moving, the information the cells get tell them that they do not need the ability to move. So here's a phrase to take away. The body adapts not to your best intentions, but to what you do most often. From that perspective, let's take a look at exercise. We've started to put people into categories as either being athletes or sedentary. Sedentary generally refers to the people who do not regularly engage in exercise or physical activity. Then there are those people who do exercise either for health or recreation, and we tend to call those people active or athletes. But if you look at the frequency and the duration or the proportion of time that people exercise and you start to see an interesting picture. If someone were to exercise even 1 or 2 hours a day, the proportion of time that person spent exercising is actually very small compared to the rest of the hours of the day where they may return to a sedentary lifestyle. If you put the levels of activity of those two groups side by side, you'd see that they are nearly the same. In the active group, some of the cells of the body are exposed to the forces of high quantities of movement for only a short portion of the day. And the rest of the time, the cells return to a sedentary environment. So this has led exercise researchers to the recognition of a new category of people called active sedentary. The exercise that the active sedentary group of people are getting is beneficial, for sure. But the sedentary hours are, in essence, overpowering the active hours simply by their sheer volume. So how do we address all the other hours of the day where the cells of the body are being starved of their needs for movement? If exercise is medicine, then the sedentary nature of the rest of the day is kind of like that bad habit of jumping off the cliff that we talked about earlier. But it's harder to see the negative effects because not moving is a much longer and slower fall. From a nutrition perspective, one way to prevent our bodies from falling too far out of balance to the point where they'll need medicine is to maintain a healthy diet. So here's where we'll shift the metaphor a bit. There's that famous quote from Hippocrates, "Let food be thy medicine." To be truly healthy, you have to eat a nutritious whole foods diet. We can't just supplement with healthy foods once in a while and expect the body to be healthy. And we can't starve ourselves for most of the day and try to get all of our nutrients from one meal. To properly absorb all the nutrients your cells crave, you need a lifestyle of consistently eating whole and healthy foods. The same could be said for movement. So exercise, like vitamin supplements, can offset deficiencies in your movement diet. But to get your whole body the movement nutrients it needs, you need a consistent movement lifestyle that keeps more of your parts and the cells of your body moving throughout the day. If you were to put exercise in a circle, and this represents portions of the day, and in this circle, we would put all the things we do: running, lifting, cycling, swimming, yoga, sports. But there's a larger circle that includes exercise, but encompasses much more. This one is called movement. And in here are all the possibilities for moving more of our bodies throughout our lives. This includes all the movements we do: sitting, standing, walking, carrying, laying down, and everything in between. Every movement from one place to another, every movement of any part of your body. And we can learn to optimize our movement potential throughout the day by doing things such as developing new habits that require more movement of our bodies, creating movement-friendly homes and working environments, finding breaks between our sedentary times to move even a little, and we call these movement snacks, and finding more balance in the body by becoming aware of what parts of us are moving too little and what parts we tend to overuse. If exercise is what we do to supplement our health and recreation, movement is the whole spectrum of everything else we do in day-to-day living. And that is why, even though exercise is very good for us, movement is the larger category that may hold the key toward healthier and happier living.